Don't mind me, all the new viewers watching me fix my camera. You don't need to see my arm. But hey, welcome to another episode of the Engaged Family Gaming Podcast. My name is Steven Dutzman. I am your host. As always, joined once again by two of my very best friends in the whole wide world. Speaking of one of those, a new subscriber, to the Twitch channel, Amanda Farrow, the Princess of Power. How are you, my friend?
I'm having an awesome day, and this is just going to make my day even more awesome.
I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best not to let you
All
down.
you have to do is show up, buddy. That's it. I don't expect anything else. Just got to be you.
I did it. Woohoo. But also,
You did.
The icing on the wonderful end of day experience that is the Engaged Family Gaming Podcast is you also get to hang out with Linda Roble, the Mistress of Magnificence, otherwise known as Mom.
I love that I came up with that. It's just my favorite thing.
So I'm going to say, so it's Mom, the Mistress of Magnificence, not the Multiverse of Madness. Because that's a different Mom thing.
It's true.
I mean, there's moments where I feel like in a Multiverse of Madness. Having not seen the movie, full disclaimer, I have not seen it, so... the day will come, soon.
The day will come. So Amanda and I have seen it. I do want to say very briefly for those watching, it is a horror movie.
Yes.
And so
that is correct.
If you have super young children or children who are frightened easily, you may want to discuss this with them first because it definitely has some moments. My wife and I went to go see it. We had a date night. We went to go see it. It was a very romantic date.
It's like when I went to see Pan's Labyrinth on Valentine's Day. That was super romantic.
That's a V-Day movie, if ever there was one. This one, it's there's some elements in it, and it's visually super impressive, and it's a Marvel movie, so if you love it. But we were in a very small theater. It was very intimate, which was an issue in and of itself. But there was a family that brought 3 super young kids. I don't know if they were one family, but at least there were 3 super young kids amongst what could have been up to 2 groups of people. And only one of them made it to the end.
Oh.
Little creatures.
Because I would say, and Amanda, you watched it, I think there are probably about 5 moments that are absolutely nightmare worthy. Everything's intense, there's action, whatever. But there are at least 5 moments that
at
are
least.
that are like, whoa. I was like, can they do that? I
definitely had those moments myself where I was checking in on the kids because we had Gabe and Vivi next to us. They've played Subnautica though, so I feel like after Subnautica, everything is fine because Subnautica is scary.
I mean, there are some folks that... So anyway, I'm not going to spoil stuff. The reality is, it's directed by Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi knows how to direct a horror movie.
It's a very Raimi movie.
Yeah, and it is...
That's what I've been hearing.
That does not mean it is bad. I think it is fantastic.
I very much enjoyed it.
I just think you need to be prepared, and if you have very young kids or older kids who have trouble, and if you, as an adult, have problems with body horror, I would...
I think I'll be okay. I might not have been 10 years ago.
Well, we've gotten you... We've warmed you up. You're ready for the scary stuff. With that said... this is not the Marvel Cinematic Universe recommendation podcast. This is a family gaming podcast. But we talk about movies occasionally. Because sometimes it's just important to just throw those disclaimers out. It's all media. So I do have an announcement. Number one, I have to cough, I guess. I'm not sick, I promise.
It's allergy season, friend.
Oh my gosh, it's so bad. So I do have an announcement for the folks watching, and I'll repeat it again at the end of the show. We're making another format change. I'm doing all sorts of changes here at Engage Family Gaming. And part of that is just adapting to the new world that we all live in. But this change is pretty straightforward. We're only going to do the podcast with all 3 of us from now on. Number one, because I like having both of my friends at the same, with me at the same time. And Amanda likes to see Linda, and
I
vice versa.
do.
And they don't only want to see each other when I skip a week. But the consequence of that is I'm going to skip every other week. We're going to go to bi-monthly. Is that what we call it? Is it bi-monthly, bi-weekly? I don't know. Every other week, we're going to do a podcast. And we're going to
Bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly. We are going to...
Or semi-monthly.
Semi-monthly. Fair enough. Thank you. And we are going to combine... I don't know why I'm coughing.
It happens, buddy. It's all good. It's allergy season.
We are going to combine the video game and board game topics into one show. Sometimes they'll bleed into each other. Sometimes the show might, we're going to figure it out. But this is to allow us as adults to have more time to do adulty things so that when it's time to podcast, by Yori, we can podcast. On those weeks when I am not podcasting, if I have a game that is new to stream, I may do so. In fact, I think that is very likely, so keep your eyes peeled here. I will likely be doing, hour and a half long streams there. I know I've talked about doing that on Thursday. Things have just been really crazy because the world is kind of opening up again. And last Thursday, I went to go see the movie with my wife. And sorry, but...
And you know what? This is a super busy time of year. It's May. It's graduation season for college. We're getting into high school graduation season. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I just was doing planning for my school year. I can't believe I have like 4 weeks left.
But guess what? Here's the really cool thing. We have a podcast to do right now. So let's start by going around the horn because we all have a lot of games to talk about. I have 2, so I'm going to go first. And I'm going to start with an old game. By old, I mean like 6 years old. It's been around for a while, but it's not like...
In internet years, that's extremely old.
Yeah. And it's a live service game. I think I would qualify this as a live service game. Amanda, you can correct me if I'm wrong. This game that I'm talking about is Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms.
Oh. I'm familiar with this game.
Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms is on Steam. I believe it's even on Switch. It's on mobile. It's all over the place. It's slowly infiltrating everywhere. And it is an idle game where you collect Dungeons & Dragons heroes and you go on quests. It is free to play, meaning it does come with that set of shenanigans and chicanery. However, there are, I've been playing for 2 weeks now, and I have spent $3. And it's because I wanted a gelatinous cube monster as a pet.
That's fair.
Because, it was $3, gelatinous cube monster. So if you don't know what an idle game is, those listening, perhaps this is something we should put into the glossary if it's not there already.
Might be a good idea.
An idle game, and these actually are getting... They come in and out of style, right? Like this is one of those. So, and it really depends on if somebody comes up with like a new twist on it. But an idle game is a game that plays on its own. It generally starts with you being like a mouse clicky game, like you click on things on the screen to deal damage or to collect cookies or coins or whatever. But eventually, you unlock powers that do the thing on its own, and so you just kind of watch it do its thing. And it collects resources or defeats
It's an engine builder.
And you're building an engine. And what's really interesting about idle games is idle games are a really interesting way to teach scientific numbers. Where it's like 1.635x times 10 to the nth or whatever. Because eventually the numbers get absolutely bananas. And so, the damage that you are dealing, etc., is expressed in scientific numbers, and the money that you are collecting is expressed in scientific numbers. So it's actually really kind of an interesting way to demonstrate how what is a bigger scientific number than others, because it's not necessarily intuitive. If I were a teacher if I were a math teacher that had to teach this subject, I would literally run one of those games for an entire year and just
that'd be really cool.
So what's really interesting about this is there is actually some tactical decision making about it because you're building your crew and they're in a formation. And what happens is all of the dudes, and you collect all sorts of adventures, and they all occupy different slots, which are in a certain slot. For example, slot number 3, there are 6 or 7 different slot 3 heroes that you can have, and you can only have one of them.
Okay.
So you have that as a meaningful choice. So for example, right now you have to choose between like a cool cleric chick or Dungeon Master from the 1980s D&D cartoon. And there's real reasons why you wouldn't use him for certain adventures, because or certain combinations, and certain certain characters don't balance very well, right? There's one guy that's a drow pirate, and so he really wants you to have other rogues or drow elves in your party, because if you do, you get more gold, and you use the gold to buy more levels and buy whatever. And so it's actually really interesting from a tactical perspective, not on a minute-to-minute tactical thing. It's not like every turn you're making decisions. It's really more of I want to set up my dudes and then watch them go. And it is fascinating. And you could literally close it at night and it runs overnight. So the whole one more turn thing is not an issue because you can set it up and it plays. And it plays while it's offline. So if you turn your computer off, it will play. And so when you log in, it'll say, by the way, while you were gone, you progressed this many levels, you did this much, collected this much gold, and then you can spend it all, which is really fun, on leveling all your dudes, and you keep going. They have a bunch of quests that are all based on the book adventures from Dungeons and Dragons. So, there's you're going adventuring on the Sword Coast, and then it's crazy. It's just really cool. I am having a lot of fun with it. I just leave it idle, and it just, because that's what it is. And so it's like basically a screensaver that I click every once in a while, and it like does stuff. The graphics are cartoony. There's a little bit of cartoon blood. So I think if you're concerned about, but it's Dungeons and Dragons, and it's got, everything's cartoony. There's a little bit of that. So if you are concerned about that, obviously this would be not appropriate for that. But if you play Dungeons and Dragons with your kids, and they fight and kill goblins, and you do that kind of D&D or whatever, I don't think this is terribly offensive. I like it a lot. I think this is super fun. It's on Steam. It's all over the place. The other thing you can do is they have Twitch streams every day. You follow their Twitch channel, and you just every day log into their Twitch channels when you can. And all of their Twitch streamers have a code for an Electrum chest, which has 5 cards in it that give you stuff, whether it be equipment for adventurers or gems that are a premium currency. So you just slowly get stuff. I think
that's
it's really
pretty cool.
Yeah.
This sounds really cool.
I did not think I tried it back in the day. When it first came out, I installed it and played it for like 3 days, and I just don't think there was enough to it to keep my interest, and so I stopped playing, and closed it. And then when I logged back in, like re-downloaded it, I was like, oh, I had played this game before, and it was like, while you are offline, you have earned this ginormous number.
Oh.
It still was going all that time.
I had my characters leveling up on this one level for, I think, 5 years.
Oh my.
I don't know.
That's impressive.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. So it's Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. Idle games, like Amanda and I said, they're like really weird. Like they come in and out of style. Hi, Vivi. So that's my video game. Linda, you played a board game on Mother's Day.
Did.
Tell us how you did.
Since we were kind of hanging out, I insisted that for Mother's Day, I wanted to play Mountains Out of Molehills. So this was the one that the OP had sent to us.
Yep.
And it was fantastic. The whole family, we sat down, and it's up to 4 players, so it was perfect for our group. Yep. And what's really neat, besides the fact that this is the game that's got the 2 layers, so you've got the moles underground and then the surface level, there's a bunch of elements to this game that I wasn't expecting just from the box cover. And once we kind of delve into it and learned it, nothing super complicated, but it definitely added some cool elements. So there's really 3 phases to the game. It's played over rounds, and in each round, you're card drafting your movement, you're planning your movement, and then actually going through the movements, scoring, and then reset for the next round. You just do that 6 times, and it was really neat to see how that played out with having to program your movement beforehand and the shenanigans that occurred once we played it out. We might have had a case where one of my children accidentally programmed their mole to walk into the wall and just keep running into the wall for 2 turns because they didn't turn the right way, and they're but he took it in stride. We kind of like teased and that playful teasing, and he understood that he just got turned around. It happens.
Yeah, it happens.
It does. But this is so cute because as your mole moves, you're putting your cubes. So the premise is as they move, they're pushing up dirt. And to represent the dirt, each player has a cube. And I'm enthralled by these cubes because they are so much like the Unifix cubes we use in math because they connect only one direction. They're not multi-sided. But the difference is they do have some texture to them. So they are definitely distinctive from the cubes I've got in my classroom. But as you move, you're pushing up dirt, so you're adding your cube. You're adding from the bottom up.
Oh.
And whoever controls the bottom color gets points for how high the molehill is.
That makes sense.
That's what you're ultimately trying to get. You're getting points for your molehills.
Understood.
That's the scoring mechanism. Yep. So, and there's a whole mechanism with if the molehills get too tall, they topple over, and there's this whole mechanic for how they topple. And every round, over the rounds, the molehills can get taller, but it's not every round it increases.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So there's an increase, and what I love is on the scoring sheet, it's right here. So on the scoring sheet, it tells you the maximum height. So the first round, you can only have it too high, which isn't hard to it's not hard to get above that.
No.
Because there's only so many movements that are occurring. The next 2 rounds, you can't exceed 3 without causing a topple. The next round 4 and 5, you can only be 4 cubes high, 4 topples, and the final round is 5 cubes high. And we didn't get a lot of toppling until the last round, and then it was domino effects. Mm-hmm. So when a topple, and then it triggers that one to topple, and so it was really interesting to see how that all progressed.
That's neat.
It really is neat.
I might have to try that out.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe
we have it next time you come up.
I love this idea.
We do have to put it on the calendar. We got to do it.
We do.
So first off, big shout out to the OP for supporting our board game coverage by sending us all sorts of products to try out, test, etc. We did give them a commensurate shout out in our inaugural Engage Family Gaming board game issue of our magazine, which has been it's just been flying off store shelves, everybody. You can't find them anywhere.
It's true.
And that's because the only place you can do it is to download it at engagefamilygaming.com. Just look for the magazine on the header. But thank you very much to the OP for sending us Mountains of Morphville. I cannot wait to give that one a try. It looks so cool. I love. I'm just really glad that the little supports that hold the box up are made out of plastic.
Yeah, they're pretty heavy duty.
I thought they were going to be cardboard. I thought they were going to be cardboard and thus immediately shatter. So I'm very excited, like Chef Kiss excited that they made it out of plastic. Amanda, you play a fair number of games because you have a job that revolves around playing games. Many of those that you play for your job you can't talk about, and we understand and love that.
Hashtag redacted.
Hashtag redacted. How you should get that on a t-shirt, or on a hat. Oh my god, could you imagine like a baseball cap that was just like hashtag redacted?
Yeah,
like the
I could do that.
Logo on top of it.
That'd be amazing. I should do that.
Great. But you did get a really nifty little contraption in the last week or so that I will admit I am super jealous of. To the point where if they do another round of selling them, I may need to get one. because I want one very badly. You got the Playdate, which I'm gonna
I
be real.
sure
I don't
did.
think Linda has any idea what
I
we're
have
talking
no
about.
idea. Not even
That's
a little.
totally fine. I just dropped it into chat, so if you've never seen it before, you can take a look at what the Playdate is.
It's
So
a
the
hipster
Playdate,
Game Boy, right?
I mean,
Basically.
kind of. More specifically, the Playdate is it's a tiny, tiny system. Like, it's very small. It's like about, I don't know, like this big. Maybe a little bit bigger than
Uh-huh.
that, about this big. Like, it's not very big. Very, very small. And it is built for experimental indie games.
Mhm.
And it has on this, so it looks like a Game Boy, right? It looks like it maybe should be a clamshell Game Boy,
Mhm.
but it doesn't have a clamshell. And instead of it being a clamshell Game Boy, it actually has this little contraption on the side that you pull out, and it's the crank. And it's used in a variety of different ways, depending on the game that you're playing. In Whitewater Wipeout, you actually use the crank in order to figure out like where your surfboard nose is supposed to be pointing to get you to like the sickest waves, and to keep you alive, quite frankly. And then in Casual Bird Watcher, you are taking pictures of birds. So you're using the crank to like, zoom in and make sure that everything's really focused. So a bunch of these experimental games are being released on a weekly basis. They're being released every Monday, and I think it's like 24 weeks of this potentially.
Yeah.
There we go. 12
I
weeks,
just
2
put it right
games
up
every
on the,
Monday.
I just put it up on the stream, so you should be able to see a rendering of what this monster looks like.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie to you folks.
It's very cool. It really,
Looks
really
super
is.
cute.
It's adorable. It's very light. It sits in my purse. I bring it with me basically wherever.
Is that a Paperwhite screen? Is that like that kind of?
Kind of. It's really, really crisp, but it's not backlit. So you can't play it in the dark, and you can't play it like when it's really bright out. You have to have just the right lighting in order to get the right experience.
So it's like a Game
But
Boy.
the speakers are legit. They are beautiful. The sound that comes out of that little speaker there, the one that you're seeing on the side, it's so pretty. Like so pretty.
Okay.
So I've been really having a good time playing Casual Bird Watcher because I love picture games. Like, photography games are extremely my jam. That's why I love Pokemon Snap and all the Snap-alikes that came out over the last like 3 or 4 years. I've really enjoyed just hanging out, taking pictures of things. What I like to do. What can I say? It's it's cool.
Yeah. So these
So
the next round is up for pre-orders. $179. So this is not.
It is.
This is not a budget.
It's not a toy
game device. This
No.
is, I mean, it's a full-on handheld console.
It is.
I mean,
it's for experimental. It's for experimental indie games, and one of the really cool things about the Playdate is they actually released their software development kit, their SDK, so that you can download it and make your own games for the Playdate.
Wow.
So there's a bunch of very, very cool Playdate games that you can actually go onto itch.io and go buy and download and put onto your Playdate, and it is really cool. Like, really, really cool. And the folks that make Playdate are awesome humans. It was worth the wait. It really was worth the wait. And right now, like, one of the things I am really excited about is actually the Playdate stereo dock, which is like it's a little stereo Bluetooth speaker that you can put your Playdate right into. It's really cute. It's got a little pen holder. So it can sit on my desk and look really adorable.
Sounds great to me. Turns it into a nice little collectible. This is one of those things.
It's legit.
What's interesting is because of the itch.io community, this is one of those things that if you or the people you play games with really like experimental, weird games, this thing is going to get supported for a very long time because that hacker community, you know what I mean? Like that group of people that are like, hey, let's see if we can get this running on this thing. And this is, I'm gonna have to get one eventually.
I'd recommend it.
because this is what I really like about it is they're releasing small games regularly. So as someone who has difficulty really like big giant obnoxious games that are not called World of Warcraft are tough for me. Listen, if I said big, large, obnoxious games are really hard for me to get into, one of the two of you would have been like, point
Excuse
of order.
me, I have all the questions.
Excuse me, point of order.
Pick me.
Can you please tell me how World of Warcraft is not at least obnoxious? Fair. It is very. But like the idea of being able to pick up a device every, and just plug away at like some cool games that are really kind of smaller experiences or whatever, is really cool to me. And so, I think this is neat. That I'm so glad that you and Mike got them. When I saw the Twitter thing, I mean, I don't know why I didn't think one of you would. Like at the very least, Mike couldn't help himself. But I'm glad that he got
it is my kind of console, right?
True.
I love weird indie games, and the weirder the better, honestly. Like, give me weird inputs, give me strange controllers, give me bizarre kinds of ways to play games. I am in.
Absolutely true, and I know this is your wheelhouse, but even if, let's pretend we're in another multiverse where you are just like, you only
from
play
just normal.
Madden.
Oh God.
It's
what?
Like,
that is a strange multiverse.
Listen, Multiverse of Madness just happened. There is
for you guys.
There's probably a version of me out there, that does this.
There is Amanda that's wearing that's sitting here being like, yo, with like a Baltimore Ravens hat, and because it's purple, I'm still respecting the purple.
I appreciate
Bizarro World. I love this.
And you're wearing a Baltimore Ravens hat, and you're basically the reason that you're here is because this is like the Hardcore Gamer podcast. Like all I do is talk about Call of Duty, but you bring in like the other angle by talking about the hardcore sports games. And Linda is here.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know why Linda's here. Linda's here because I don't know, because she's a professional Magic player. That's what it is.
There you go. There's Bizarro World. I love it.
Player. So anyway,
wow.
I played a board game too. Want to talk about Bizarro World? Me playing a board game, not Bizarro World. I played a Kingdom Hearts board game with my mother.
Okay, yeah, I need to know more about that immediately. And I'm also requesting the next time that I come visit that I meet your mom.
She would love that. I'm certain that she
really
would. So speaking of the Kingdom Hearts Perilous Pursuit is a cooperative dice game set in the Kingdom Hearts universe. And two things. One, it is very good. Number two, like when I say good, very good, I mean very, very, very good. But also, it is a really weird opportunity to sidestep / lean into explaining the story and set premise of Kingdom Hearts to my mother. Now, I
can respect that.
We're going to talk about very briefly about my mom's cred with nerd stuff, because my mom, she by all rights should not be a nerd. She should not. She wasn't.
She does not fit the mold.
She does not fit the mold. But if I told you that before the release of Avengers Infinity War, my mother brought to me on her like floral stationery a list of all of the Infinity Gems and where she knew they were within universe, including predictions for the ones that we had not seen yet.
Wow.
That's my mom. I was very proud of that moment. Can I just say she predicted that the Soul Stone was in Wakanda. And you know what? We had no idea what they were gonna do. And that was a good guess, I think. She did her research. Some of it was influenced by the trailers. She's like, why else are they fighting in Wakanda? And I was like, probably because it's cheaper than blowing up a bunch of buildings. It's like in a jungle. But like,
that's
whatever. She's like, they got to be defending the Soul Stone. That's the whole thing. And I'm like, I can't get mad at that. So explaining the plot of Kingdom Hearts to my mother is not completely outside the realm of possibility, at least on a basic level.
Okay.
But I just want to say, and I fully admit to my audience, that I am a coward. Because I was very concerned that it was going to take like a whole day. So this is what I said. Mom, here's the Kingdom Hearts thing. It's Final Fantasy shenanigans with Disney crap. And they put it in a blender. And none of it makes any sense. Except to like super nerds who like, bless their hearts, they are all in. Like, there's like 5 people that know all of the plot. One of them is a very good friend of Amanda's.
It's basically Alexa. I mean, Alexa just like knows things.
Did you know there's actually a podcast right now that's like
a
once-a-month podcast with
it's Alexa and Cam Final Mix, and there's one more.
Dornbush.
And Jonathan Dornbush. Those are all very, very good people. Great humans.
I've only met one of them, and that's Alexa, and I met her for maybe 2 minutes. But she did like my comment about when I asked if anyone had checked to see if she backflipped off the Earth when they announced Kingdom Hearts 4. She liked that tweet.
I absolutely, I bless.
That was a deep cut. So
yeah, that's so good.
So I basically just completely surrendered, and I was like, I'm not going to explain this. The good news is you don't need to know the plot to play this game. Here's the cool part. I'm just going to... Kingdom Hearts Perilous Pursuit is cooperative King of Tokyo with some extra shenanigans. That's it.
Oh.
Interesting.
So the idea is it plays up to 5 players. The 5 characters are Sora, Riku, Kairi, Donald, Goofy. There are 5 abilities within the game. You attack, you defend, you collect items, you have a special power, and there's another one that I can't remember. It doesn't super matter. Oh, there's a distract. The idea is...
It's ironic that's the one you forgot.
And so there's 5 characters.
Distract.
Everyone has a specialty.
Shiny.
And everyone has a special power. Right? That is unique to them, attached to that special power. And so the idea is... What you are doing on your turn is you are rolling the Kingdom dice. They have these very nice, chunky, very, very King of Tokyo, like chunky dice covered with symbols. And the idea is you roll them and you roll it just like King of Tokyo, Kingdom of Tokyo. You throw them and you have 3 chances. The big trick is there's a heartless token. There's a heartless mark on one of the dice. And if you roll that, you got to re-roll everything because the Heartless ruined everything, which adds like a little layer of shenanigans.
As they often do.
And the idea is, what you can do is as you make a set to complete a row for one of your powers, like for example, Sora is really good at attacking. That's his jam. So if you roll 2 keys, you're all set to attack. And then you can, if you roll a 3rd key, you can then enable an attack. And what that means is, for the rest of that round, anyone else who rolls an attack die can actually use your space to attack. So basically, over time, you're building up like all these cool powers. And so everybody might have their attacks open. So at one point, all of us had our attacks open. So somebody rolled a bunch of attacks, and it was like, I'm going to swing, and I'm going to swing. So it's like teamwork. We're all like... beating up on Heartless together. And so it is super cool. Super cool. You got like special abilities that all fire off of each other, and everybody's very different. Obviously, Donald doesn't heal anybody, which is a Kingdom Hearts joke, but his ability doesn't heal very well. His ability is not...
Even I know that joke.
Very bad.
You know what? The only criticism that I have is that the player boards are super solid, and they have really nice places to put the dice, and the dice are awesome. Because what you're doing is you're defeating different Kingdom Hearts worlds.
Right.
They're just a card with a picture of a monster from the world, usually the boss from the game, with like a little track. And I really wish that the track had like a cool, like a cool mini or whatever. Instead, you have like this little weird hex-shaped piece of plastic that you just push around on a little board. So I feel like the thing that you are attacking falls short. But the act of sitting around a table and like really coordinating and like rolling dice and yeah, man, I got my item over here. You can get me so I can draw some cards or whatever. Is all there. It is very cool and it is very satisfying to beat one of the worlds and move on. It is so. I think this is one of those games that you have to just play a turn. And you have to watch a video.
Okay.
Because one of the mechanics is after your turn, after you complete a world, everyone rolls, and depending on what you roll one of the dice, and depending on what comes up, you lose all the dice on that row. So you're not. So it depowers you a little bit, and if you get the Heartless, it depowers you entirely. And so the idea is, as the game progresses, you still occasionally will have to recollect all your stuff. Not as devastating as it sounds, but the rulebook is not very good at explaining that, and we were collectively very confused until we watched a video. And there's lots of them.
In the video.
Kids-splaining. That they have a video where their two kids explain how to play the game, and outside of the fact that my mother had trouble hearing them because their voices are high-pitched, it was fine. So, yeah, Kingdom Hearts Perilous Pursuit, it's available. It is very cool. And thanks to the OP for sending us that. But, yeah, I definitely recommend it. Do I think it's going to find its way onto our EFG Essentials? I don't know if I'm going to, like, battle it out against some of the other ones, but I think it could compete because it is actually quite cool. It absolutely would be competing on there if some of the components for the things you were fighting were better.
That's fair.
That would be. I think it's just a component loss. But so we did it. We went around the horn.
We did.
Let's talk about some video game news real quick because Linda has a topic. She's done some homework and has some.
I'm very excited about this topic. Like, I am beyond psyched.
So, Amanda, I'm sure you've been dying to talk about this for the 11 billionth time. You do. I'm sure you will be able to. If people want more detail, they can listen to a Virtual Economy episode. But Square Enix
2 episodes ago, in fact.
Yeah,
these
Square
days.
Enix be wildin' is the
yeah.
thing. What did Square Enix do? Those crazy Square Enix people.
Well, they definitely undervalued what it is they sold their Western studios for. So you heard it right. Square Enix is no longer invested in its Western studios, and that includes Eidos Montreal, Crystal Dynamics, and Square Enix Montreal. And Square Enix Montreal is their mobile studio. So they decided that they were going to sell these studios to Embracer Group. Now, if Embracer Group is something that you haven't heard about, Embracer Group owns a lot of different companies in the game industry. They also own companies like Dark Horse. They own Asmodee. So that's relevant to those of us that are interested in tabletop gaming as well. So they own a lot of different companies in and around gaming. So they snapped up these studios for $300 million. Now, it's all funny money at that point, but from my perspective, and like Mike and I went into this like in depth and in detail on Virtual Economy. If you wanted to check that out, we're on all podcasting platforms and virtualeconcast.com. But the relevant thing here is that the $300 million price point, from my perspective, was low. And it's indicative of Square Enix really and genuinely undervaluing what it had in those studios, because it's not just the studios, it's all the intellectual property that goes along with those studios, like Deus Ex, right? Like that's a big one. Like, like I believe Tomb Raider's in there as well.
Yep, Tomb Raider.
So
Tomb
like
Raider
there are a lot of different titles that are really ripe to come back in in modern gaming and in this particular console generation. So Square Enix decided that it didn't want to invest in its North American studios any longer. So they sold them off to Embracer. And Embracer's like, we're not really sure which business unit you're going to live in yet. So they're trying to figure that out because Embracer has a whole bunch of them, like THQ Nordic, Gearbox, Coffee Stain, Saber Interactive, a bunch of other ones. So like it's yeah. When Steve said Square Enix be wildin', Square Enix be wildin'.
Yeah, really did. It's super wild that they did that. I mean,
it's not super surprising, like now that we're looking at it from hindsight capacity, but when that news dropped and Mike and I saw it at 7:15 in the morning, the day that the news dropped, we like bolted up where we're like, holy moly, how did this happen? When did this happen? How did we not get any wind of this happening? And then looking at it hindsight, you start to see some of the patterns that Square Enix has had with its Western studios, like having, really hardcore expectations of Western studios, but not for their Eastern studios or with their Eastern partners. So it's very, very interesting how this kind of all unfolded. And we don't know what the ramifications are going to be just yet, especially because, they're still working, on the finer details of it. But it was, definitely caught me by surprise, let me tell you.
I mean, I can say with certainty, I sent a one-word text to Amanda.
It's true. It was just one word.
One word, huh?
She knew exactly what I was talking about. Linda, you probably guessed what it was. And
the word yo?
No, it was not actually. Because yo is yo is a word that I use when I am excited.
That's true.
I don't often use yo when I am confused / interested / want to express like what. So I sent one word to Amanda, and she knew exactly what was on my mind, and then responded with, "Yeah, man," more or less. And it was a good moment where our minds connected.
It was new. We had a mind meld in that moment.
So yeah, we obviously don't know what it's going to be. Here's one thing that I will say is Embracer Group certainly likes making video games, or at the very least, they like announcing them. So.
They have many studios and many people. Yeah. They are, I think they're either as big or bigger than Activision Blizzard at this point.
Oh, they're huge. And
so ginormous.
So if anyone was worried that this was going to be like bought and like shut down, or that they were going to stop making games,
nope.
This is
not nothing to worry about.
Purchase. That's not that kind of purchase. Okay. This is, we're going to see stuff. You know what? I think Amanda's pretty excited about the possibility of a new Legacy of Kain game.
It was specifically brought up in like their presentation was Legacy of Kain as being a very valuable property. And when Mike came and told me about that, I was like, quick, someone call Amy Hennig.
Legacy of Kain, Linda, is she was looking at us like, what are you talking about? Legacy of Kain, 3D action platformer about vampires. More or less. Okay. Otherwise known as like right in Amanda's wheelhouse.
I was gonna say that sounds exactly like your thing.
A new one would be the biggest news of any given month if they announced it.
I'm pretty sure it would be the biggest news of the decade, quite frankly, for me personally.
Oh, okay, I was about to say for Amanda specifically, yes.
Well, for me, for Mike, for a few of our friends,
for a laser focused,
for a very laser focused set of nerds. It was just like decade.
Speaking of, how about this for a segue? Speaking of announcements / news that are laser focused at maybe one person.
We're going for it, aren't we?
Stephanie McMahon, wife of Triple H, daughter of Vince McMahon of WWE fame, was interviewed recently regarding the success of WWE 2K22, which, by the way, has done much better than its embarrassing previous entry. Who knew? You take some time and make a good game, and
almost like that's the way it works sometimes.
Really?
Yeah. Who knew?
That's the time, huh?
It do be like that. Sometimes if you take time off and
sometimes
make a good game, people like it, and
then
buy it.
Revolutionary.
I know.
It actually kind of is revolutionary in some ways, but. She had some other tidbits to say. Number one, I can say with certainty, WWE 2K22 is in fact on the EFG Essentials list. If you like wrestling games, you must play it. It is absolutely fantastic. But there's another WWE game that is going to be announced very soon. Guys, what do you think my level of excitement / interest is about a WWE themed role playing game?
Oh, I think you would absolutely lose your noodle.
For sure.
Because that's
Like
happening.
The Steve Venn
3000%.
diagram where they overlap completely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a circle.
It's just a circle. So
It's just a circle.
Vince McMahon, or not Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon indicated that they are they're kind of doing the Disney model, is what they're doing. Whereas Disney, the Disney model is, rather than having their own in-house development studios, they tried that once. They have some incredibly savvy people who are, and really it's one dude, but like him and his team are working with other developers. And just, if you want to make a Disney game, come to them or they'll go to you. And they're making these awesome partnerships with Disney and LucasArts, etc. games. And Ready Player Mama in the chat with Disney's complicated relationship with video games. Because they used to have their own studios.
Might have been what I do.
Yeah,
I did that. That was my article that I wrote about Disney's complicated relationship.
I think I remember you telling me all about how hard it was getting all that information together. Because you did a lot of good work on that. So
thank you.
It looks like WWE low key is doing kind of the Disney model, in that they are open to licensing characters and the personas into other things and leaving the sports simulation genre. And she specifically mentioned a role-playing game. Now, okay. I can't imagine that this is going to be because RPG role-playing game doesn't mean the same thing that it did in the 90s, right? Like, I can't imagine Final Fantasy VI remade with the NWO. Like, I'm not imagining that. However, I would play that, and someone should make it right now. However, because seriously, Hollywood Hulk Hogan could absolutely suplex a train. But I could absolutely imagine a role-playing game where you're, it's more or less like an over-the-top career mode, where you're just kind of running around like an open-world RPG kind of thing. Like, that makes sense. But what I really want, can I just tell you what I really, really want them to do, and I don't know why they haven't done it yet, is NetherRealm, the people that make Injustice and Mortal Kombat, made a mobile game that was a fighting game based on WWE properties, where they took all the characters and their personas and like made them fantastic. So, for example, The Rock was literally a golem. And
very
Kane was literally a demon.
Oh, I can see that.
And I mean, we don't. I'm speaking purely of the persona, not the actual guy who is a not pleasant governor in Nashville, but like in the Nashville area. But like also like John Cena was like a soldier.
Cena.
And so on and so forth. Paige was like this gothic knight chick with like ravens all over the place, which fit her persona perfectly. And so they basically and Undertaker was, well, I mean, he was basically just the Undertaker. But like all of the characters were weird, crazy versions of themselves. And so I want them to just make that. Just make that, but like make it a real fighting game. Not like mobile tappy taps. Make it like, just charge me $70 for a next gen real fighting game where I get to be like, I don't know, like one of the street prophets, and I get to like be a prophet. I don't know, like, do something. Anyway, speaking of, I just wanted to say, when you mentioned laser focused announcements, like a WWE RPG is like for me.
That's entirely for you.
It really was.
Speaking of things just for me, who wants to talk about Nintendo stuff?
Boy,
I feel like that's not really just for you, though.
I'm claiming it.
You're claiming it? That's it? Just like putting his flag in the ground. This one's mine.
I can, because there are literally no cops. Hey, so Nintendo's earnings were announced. I think it was today. Was it today? Was it yesterday? I can't even tell.
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday. I haven't done my analysis on it. So that's later this week.
I'm going to encourage everybody to stay tuned to Virtual Economy, because I'm sure you guys are going to go deep into it.
Oh, we will. Yeah, we're doing an earnings episode early next week.
the things that we know, is they really have no idea what's coming out at the end of the year other than Pokemon. They're telling us maybe Bayonetta 3, which is not a family-friendly game, but I also don't believe them.
Kind of seems like lies, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like that cat from Saga, like lying. Like,
yeah, lying
like
cat.
It's not true.
It's definitely lie cat.
And definitely, I mean, whatever, they gotta say something. But we do know Metroid Prime is not coming, so my wife is safe.
No, they actually, Metroid Prime 4 is like straight up.
So
yeah,
the general is saved for one more year. She's got to wait. They've got to tell us something. The good news is, for Nintendo, they did say that there's going to be an Indie World Showcase tomorrow. So today is the 10th, right? Today's the 10th, so tomorrow the 11th. Yep. We'll have a Nintendo World Showcase. So the next time we gather, we'll be able to talk about the indie games that were announced there. It's going to be about 20 minutes long. My experience with 20-minute long indie showcases from Nintendo are that they are dense. So we better be ready.
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited for tomorrow. I'll tell you what.
It's gonna be intense.
It is gonna be fun. So, yeah, that's like the big news for all of us to talk about for now. You know, with us saying that, like, tomorrow, like, Sony will cancel the PlayStation 5 or something. You know, whatever. I don't know. Like, something big will happen tomorrow, and then if it's that big, we'll have an emergency episode. I promise. But more likely than not, I think we'll be okay.
I think we'll be fine.
Linda, you did some homework for us, though, because I wanted to have a board game topic. And it is, you are a teacher, as we talked about.
I had no idea.
On every episode that we do.
Nobody knows that's a secret.
Like, no one knows that about you.
It's a secret.
Never heard of it before.
Like, ingrained into my personality.
I outed you as a teacher. It's that time of year where people are going to start thinking about it is getting to the time of the year where people should start thinking about end-of-year gifts for teachers. And we know, and you've got to, that there are some standards, some old standbys that people give that drive teachers crazy. And some people may, I think, be interested in some interesting ideas for alternatives. And Linda, take it away.
Okay, so I'm going to start by saying, please, if you didn't already buy it, please, we don't need another mug.
You're saying I should buy more mugs. Are you sure?
Goodness, no. I could, like, fill up a whole shelf. It's so sweet. It's sentimental. I know it's well intended, so I want to preface it with I take it as intended, but I can assure you, your child's teacher has a mug, and they have a cup, cold drink cup, and they don't need another vessel to hold beverages. So I'm going to start by some other things. So I went through, and so my process for putting this together was not many teachers are going to be veteran board gamers. You're going to have some out there that can go into something heavier, but I went for what are the very easy to learn, quick to teach, the 2 to 3 minute learning games, so that there's not a lot of mental bandwidth needed. Because I can tell you by the end of June, and some schools are actually in like the Midwest and the South they're looking at in the last few weeks now. East Coast, we're looking at another month. They're like mid to late June. It's coming up quick. So I was looking for things that very fast. I'm I've got about 4 more weeks to plan out. I was working on my scope and sequence. But I can tell you, most of us are not going to have the mental bandwidth for anything complicated unless we're already heavily invested into games. So if you know your child's teacher is already a gamer, these may not be the best choice, and hit me up. I can give you lots of other suggestions. But for the average teacher out there, these are some fun, light games they can play with their families, especially if they're going on vacation, to the beach, to the lake, just to chill, to unwind. I started by going right to our essentials list and going, okay, from here, what are the games that are going to be the most approachable, the easiest to teach? And so I pulled a couple from that. And I'm not going to go deep into them because these are all on our essentials list. These are games we have talked about a ton. Steve, you're going to laugh. I'm going to start with Skyjo.
Oh, you always talk about Skyjo. Even I know that.
Linda Roble, #1 Skyjo influencer.
It's so true.
On Earth.
Linda Roble, Skyjo stan.
I think we're approaching Sky Joe Stan territory.
I think this is just straight up Sky Joe Stan territory. I mean, I'm here for it personally because I love that for you.
She's not on the payroll. I want to make this very clear. She's not.
No, not on the payroll.
This is not that kind of thing. This is like I'm starting to question like is the laser focused announcement is like a follow up to Sky Joe for her, like Legacy Chain for you, a WWE RPG for me, Sky Joe 2,
perhaps. There's actually a sequel
already out.
Anyway, Sky Joe. And it's on our essentials list for a reason, because it is so quick and easy to learn. Another one on there, a classic one that we've talked about literally for years, Sushi Go.
Love Sushi Go.
That's one of those, literally, play one turn and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that's all you need is one turn.
Exactly. So not a lot of bandwidth needed. Another one I went with, I was looking through our list, and when I came to King Domino, I'm like, this is a perfect one. It's another one. It's not complicated. You can learn the rules in a couple minutes. It's very intuitive. Once you play one turn, you got it. So, and all of these are low price points. I know most people don't have a huge budget, so these are also relatively inexpensive games. Then one more from our essentials list, Abandon All Artichokes. That's one of our newer ones.
Okay.
Again, super easy, super cute. It's just cards. You can literally be sitting around the picnic table and playing it. So something really simple, perfect for summer break.
I think the other thing, quietly, that's really awesome about these games is they're all kind of readily available. So if you are, like I have 3 kids with, like of various ages, right? And so, obviously, we don't get a lot of stuff for high school teachers, that kind of, but when we were all in the same like elementary school, 3 gifts, like this is 3 different copies of Sky Joe. You can get, it's not like it's hard to find. It's not a collector's item or handmade thing. It's so I super approve of that.
Yeah, really easy. So as I did my research, I was scouring the Amazons and I came across, do you know there is a What Do You Meme Teacher's Edition?
What?
Exists
really?
On the Amazons. Now, I have to just say...
buy it?
Not yet. Full disclosure.
She's waiting for it.
Put on my wish list. Because I do have a teacher wish list. Full disclosure, though. I read the description. It is listed as a 17-plus game, so there is mature content. So... I know.
You could always go through it and maybe like pull the more questionable things out, though, potentially.
You could.
Unless it's all bad. But you know what?
Unless it's all bad.
The ones they showed on the Amazon photo weren't bad. But of course, they might have, I'm sure they cherry picked them to be able to post them.
Oh, absolutely bet on that one.
But that's one of those, if you know the teacher, that's one of those, I would say, if you know they're going to get a huge kick out of it, go for it. But if you're not sure, pick something else. But I laughed when I saw that. I'm like, you gotta be kidding.
That's perfect.
It was awesome. So that might have been saved in my cart right now. Maybe might.
Love it.
So I've got a couple more. One of them I put on here because I was remembering the way the gameplay is, and it's kind of the opposite of what teachers do as teachers. So Monstrosity, you remember that one that we talked about a while ago, where so you have one person that sees a picture of a monster and they have to describe it to everyone else. And based on the description alone, the other players have to draw it on their whiteboards.
Right. Yeah. I remember talking about that, or at the very least hearing about that, because I might have just listened to that episode.
Very possible. But I saw that and I laughed because teachers are notorious for not listening well and following directions when other people are giving us things to do and listen to. And my husband loves to tease us that
tracks.
I'll be honest, and we know that. We are terrible at reading something completely and following directions when we are needing to complete a task.
That's amazing.
I saw that. I'm like, that's kind of funny. We could practice our listening skills.
That's amazing.
I love it.
I just thought that. I'm laughing. But it's true. Like, as a group, we're used to being in charge and not having to follow someone else's direction. We're used to it. It's our kingdom. When we're in our classroom, like we're the king or queen of the kingdom right there. So,
That's right. The ruling monarch.
it's true. I mean, I may have told a student or two, like, maybe the prince or princess at home, but I'm the queen here. I outrank you.
Exactly. I love that very much. And I fully and wholeheartedly support you in this.
Yep. I love it.
Thank you.
Hey, can I make a suggestion too? Can I throw Happy Salmon onto the pile? Because
Yeah, that's
I
a
know
good
it
one.
is not an orderly game.
No.
Like, this is one of those games that is going to cause havoc in a classroom, but also, like, it's going to get the sillies out, right? Like, don't you sometimes just need to do that?
Yes, and it's knowing your group for that one. But this, even if it's a gift you give, like, that they get to go let off steam, the teachers get to let off steam with their friends.
Yep.
And go do something
Absolutely.
goofy and silly. Because we're so used to, we can't laugh at the silly thing because then we'll lose control and, let off some steam. Which actually leads me to one of my other ones. I put on here a taco cat goat cheese pizza.
Taco Cat,
Because it's
Taco Cat goat cheese pizza is perfection.
so funny.
It's real good.
So fun. I mean, can you imagine, like, you're on summer break, you're trying to decompress, and there's no thinking. Like, it's
Head empty, only
exactly just
game.
silliness, just letting off that steam.
Yeah.
So that was another one I thought was really fun, just because it takes you 2 seconds to learn the rules. It's just silly. You can just sit and laugh.
Love it.
I do really enjoy silly.
Love it. Absolutely.
And I got one more.
All right,
Okay.
what's the last one?
One more. This is another one. I'm thinking of Summer Vacation, the game that we bring constantly on vacation, Cinco Linko. Because I love that because it is the perfect sitting at the restaurant when you're on vacation game.
Yep.
Okay.
Plastic pieces. You don't know Cinco? No.
I don't. This
So-
is the first time I'm hearing about it, so I'm
Okay.
like, don't mind me while I lean in.
Listen in. So it's this little game. It's a tile laying game. 4 color tiles.
Mhm.
It clips all together onto a carabiner clip, so you can literally clip it onto your backpack. Go to the restaurant or wherever you're traveling. Lay it on the table. It's all plastic, so if there's condensation from your drink, somebody spills something, it's plastic. It wipes clean. We have played this so much when we're on vacation, sitting at a restaurant when it's busy, waiting for our food. It doesn't take up a huge space. They're small pieces, and they all clip back together onto the carabiner clip. Super easy.
It's really cool.
It's really, really cool. This is
Dang.
it was originally called OK Play, and they renamed it
Okay.
several years ago. So if you've heard of OK Play, it's exactly they
I
just
think
rebranded.
I've heard of OK Play, but yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that maybe for the summertime when we go on vacation.
It's fantastic, and it's another small, low price point. I believe it's Big Potato Games that puts that one out.
Okay, good
If I'm
to
remembering their
know.
name right. Yeah, no, it's a really good little gem, and we play it so much. It's incredible. I think I play it more than Sky Joe, if you can believe that, because it travels better.
Right, okay.
I was about
But
to
still a
say,
Sky Joe
ooh,
stan.
Sky Joe it's just takes up too much table space for a restaurant.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that is true. So, ladies, we did it.
We did.
One more
Did.
episode
Woo.
in the books. So, everybody, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed watching as much as we enjoyed recording. This will be going up on our podcast feeds next Monday, as is our tradition. So, if you want to see it fresh, gotta come watch it live. As I said at the top of the show, and it bears repeating, the podcast is changing formats, at least temporarily, while we go to every other week to accommodate busy schedules and changing times. We're in the doldrums with the video games and the board games right now, while we wait for the world to right itself. Knock on wood. So we will be off next week from the podcast, but I'm going to be doing World of Warcraft Monday every week. My good friend Dana has reignited her enjoyment of the game. So we will be doing all sorts of cool content. So if you want to watch me and Dana do dumb things in World of Warcraft, you can certainly do that every Monday. And next Tuesday, I will be back to stream something. I don't know what it's going to be. I'm hoping someday it'll be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when they actually put a
Ooh.
release date out on it. But until then,
I'd play that with you.
let's chat when they freaking release it. So
When they
until
release
next-
it.
Until next time, everybody, don't forget, to get your family game on. We'll see y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.